So welcome everybody to the 1% podcast. Today we have got the man, the myth, the legend that is Mr. James Forrest on. James is kindly taking some time out of his day to talk about his experience having worked with me in the 1% over the last few months. By all accounts, I think James thriving in a really good spot now and come from a place where he wasn't so much, and I'm sure he won't mind sharing that. And the reason I want James to talk today is because his story, like a lot of other gents, circumstances unique, but often common problems and issues that he's facing. And actually, I think it's incredibly empowering to hear people from all walks of life, no matter where they are, from business, life, age, recognizing that you can take stock, stop and take ownership of your life. And yeah, we're going to talk about some of the work we've done together, James working with a coach, but it doesn't have to be relevant to that. What we're going to talk about is relevant to anyone who wants to make a change and metaphorically pull the socks up. So before we kick off, James, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and thanks for the chance of doing this. So James Forrest, 56, I think one of your older people, I think, on this group. Married, 2 kids, 2 grown-up kids. Work at Gallagher as an actuary and principal there. Live in Burnley. I thought I had a pretty good life in terms of exercise a bit. I did mental health stuff at work, so I'm sort of aware of all that. It's a pretty standard life, really. Just nothing sort of trundling along.
Cool. And so let's kind of rewind for the story, right? And for where we are today and where you've come from. So let's rewind a few months into the past, because we've been working together for a little while now, and for transparency, we're still working together.
Yeah.
That being said, what was going on kind of back a few months in the past when you kind of decided to reach out of a chat? I think you might have seen one of your colleagues post, I think it was Alistair.
Yeah, so
I mean, and then you reached out.
It's one of those things. It sort of trickles on. There's nothing. No big event that happened that I was thinking that triggered anything. But it was just generally, I had the thought that I've got everything here. I've got I've got a good job. I've got kids who are doing fantastic that I'm really proud of. Everything. They've got settled family life. Got all the stuff, but wasn't really appreciating what I've got, and not really as happy. So looking around, going, why aren't I as happy? Happier than I should be, really. And then I did a bit of exercise, I was doing a bit of mindset stuff, but not just tickling into it really. And then I saw the Alistair's podcast, Alistair's post. So I started looking through your videos, and everyone you spoke to, I was like, oh Jesus Christ, you're talking to me here. These guys are just saying exactly what I was. And I showed my wife, and she looked at her and, yeah, that's you, isn't it? That's you. So you need to do this. So I knew I needed to do something. And my son's been telling me for years that I should do something and make a change. So yeah, saw these guys are, and what it was, I think that really got me hooked was, this isn't just about getting fit physically, but it's mentally as well. And it's that the holistic approach to it I really liked. And what I wanted to do was, I'm really good. Someone said on the chat once that they're really great at losing weight but really great at putting it back on again. And that was me. I could fluctuate by 2 stone in a year. It's like I'm just not disciplined enough. And I think I said that really, and you said I'm not sure that's true. But it's being able to embed something, so make the change so it's stuck. And so the sort of 1% bit I really liked, and the fact it was mental and physical I really liked as well.
Yeah. And something you said there, James, in terms of when you watch some of the videos and heard some of the guys chat, you're like, yep, that it all kind of resonates. And the thing you said there, which is, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's all great on paper, got a great life, good job, lovely missus, great kids. I don't feel quite as happy as I would like to. There's like a bit of a disconnect between what's outwardly presenting and what it all says on paper, but how I feel. And I think that is a very, very common narrative with lots of gents. It's one of those situations where there's not necessarily one acute area of my life that's completely on fire. Some of the gents I work with are in potentially darker places with certain areas, but that wasn't you, and that's not that common really. It's like this background niggle of just, I'm not quite as happy, as content as I want, feeling like I'm going through the motions. Health isn't where I want it to be. Again, not absolutely on its arse, but not great. But I think the health piece, amongst all of this, the holistic nature you said, I think when you don't have real control over that and you're having those pendulum swings, it doesn't feel great for your self-esteem, because you feel like, well, I'm disciplined, and this is what we said, I'm disciplined at work and I can get things done there. Why can't I apply that to myself? I think that can be a frustration in and of itself, and that can cannibalize headspace. And so it just leaves this, I think, general background situation of this. And people I hear as well sometimes, it's a first world problem. Well, it's not really. It's a fucking important problem.
It's fundamental.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, look, you're looking at it objectively. I'm an actuary. I look at things very objectively usually. But it's like, well, look, objectively, I can put it all on paper and it's great. And that's what a lot of the guys are like. And this is what you said. And actually, one of the things that you said was this burnout to balance bit. I thought was really good. In that it's And that really spoke to me because I felt burnt out. So that's it. But you can say, you can look at it on paper, you've got everything there. So it's not the logic of it. But if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. That's it.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I think if your day-to-day lived experience isn't feeling good, happy, content, and look, as you know, in the programs, it's not like we're trying to paint a false picture. Life is challenging, stuff happens all the time. And as in the groups and how we work through, it's helping you work through that, right? We're not pretending otherwise. But I think we want to feel like agentic, sovereign within your life, in control. And I think when you're in that state, even if challenging things are happening, one, you feel sort of good or your overall experience feels better versus getting buffeted around by work or your health or whatever and not really feeling kind of as in control. And I think that's one of the key bits, really, because when we work together, and we'll talk about this, or anyway, regardless of working with me, when someone does do the work on themselves to feel better, it's not about changing anything externally. It's all about working on yourself and how you show up and what you do, right? And that's the empowered bit, because actually you realise, well, if I've got it all, well, and I keep looking externally, well, I'll get the promotion when work's quieter and when the money's in the bank and when and then, hold up, shit, I still feel shit. Well, then there's only one place you can look, right? And that's in the mirror.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's for me, that's the paradigm shift. But it's also the empowering bit.
Yeah, I was looking at it saying that I'm just not, exactly. It's down to myself. And there's things I wanted to change externally, but I was thinking, well, if I'm not even getting myself fit, I'm looking at myself and thinking I'm overweight and I'm not doing the things. How can I then say anything to anybody else? Because I'm not even getting myself. So you got to sort yourself out first, and then I think then it gives you the base to then work onto something else and so.
And ultimately, I believe that's really empowering. And as you know, the way we talk and the way I like to coach, it's not about beating someone up for not doing something. I mean, we're objective and forthright, but recognizing that you're the author of your own chaos to one degree, but then also you're the author of your own success if you want to be. That whole, you're the problem, but you're the solution. No one's coming to save you. Sometimes some of that can sound a bit bleak, and I think people can misinterpret it as you're blaming someone for what's happened to them in life. It's like, no, but when we look at it really deeply, it is your responsibility to make a choice to react to whatever's happening. And that's the bit, but that's where the magic is, because once that starts going in the right direction, you start to feel better, right?
Yeah, you can't sit there and complain about everybody else and everything that's going on. And that's one thing that, and we'll come on to the things you've learned, but the fact that you hit something and how to deal with that. And the way you deal with it, was some things that how you react to something is then your choice. That was that powerful.
Yeah, and when you start to see that, it becomes quite empowering. I think when we talk like this, James, it's important to say that, am I the finished article? No. Are you? No. And we'll talk about the work that we've done. It's not like I walk through life making perfect decisions constantly and showering myself in glory. I fuck up all the time, just like everyone else. But the more we can just take a step back, be objective, look at what's happening, and reflect, I think it just fosters a better environment for yourself within your life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that being said, then, that's where you were. And I think, again, a common story, all great on paper, but not feeling great, recognizing you need to change, but kind of can't quite see the wood for the trees. Mm-hmm. And then that weird dichotomy of, I sort of know what I need to do, but I don't do it. Why don't I do it? And I'm disciplined at work. That kind of stuff. That's what was going on, right? So we had a good chat, decided we want to do some work to address this. Let's fast forward to today, then. What has been and you've started to touch on it already, but your key learnings and takeaways from having done what we've done so far, and just pick it up wherever you want to.
Well, because it covers everything here, you sort of pick up bits of everything. I did, like you say, I was doing quite a lot. I was doing a lot of cycling. I could have cycled 100 miles. I thought was fit, and I did mental health for work, so I was sort of aware of all that stuff. I weighed myself regularly. I knew about MyFitnessPal, knew about what protein did. I knew all these little bits, but I didn't really know how to apply them, I suppose. I just knew I need to do a bit of a kick to it. So I think I've taken bits for everything, really. The biggest impact on physically is the intermittent fasting, keeping that, because that was really embedding. What I wanted was to embed it so it was, one of these statements, discipline eats motivation for breakfast. That is key. It's if you can embed it. I was relying on motivation to keep losing weight and keep the weight down, and if you're constantly trying to keep yourself in a place, it just doesn't work, does it? So now I'm in a place where actually I don't even think about it. Now I don't have the breakfast, just get to wherever at lunchtime, and then I can have a normal life and I keep losing weight. It's like the magic pill I've always been looking for, but that's exactly it. It's like I went away, put a couple of kilograms on. One thing, I didn't panic. I've learned to be patient, because you had to go at me a few times early on when I was being a bit diva about the fact I wasn't losing any weight, which was, I was getting a bit frustrated. Everyone else was losing kilograms and I wasn't doing it. And you're like, just look at the graph, trust it.
And the
And
reality
that's made me
was,
a
in
lot
that
more
situation,
patient.
you were, but it was your perception. You know, it was not
Yeah,
fast enough. And I was like, yeah, but if we look at it actually detailed, and now you know, because if we now take a step back and look at that over time, your graph just, if anyone who's listening, I'm doing like quite a steep angle going down. But if we look at things day to day, sometimes we can't see that. And so just like you would as an actuary, you'd look at trends and stuff, right? It's about doing the same for yourself, isn't it?
exactly. And he's being patient. It was like, I just go, oh, look, I knew I'd put those pounds back on again. I can work really hard and it disappears and then it all comes back on. But it's the opposite now. I had a big weekend this weekend, but I'm back to where I was. And I'm at the level I thought I'd probably never get to again. Physically, losing the weight, learning things about weights. I've never used weights before, so that was a bit of a revelation, but I knew I sort of needed to, and just embedding those exercises that I've been doing. So that's been really, really good. So physically, I feel better than I've done, and that's even with doing less of it, less of the exercise and the 2 hour bike rides and all that sort of stuff. So that's been great. But it's the mindset stuff is probably I think is the really good stuff, which will carry on and sorry, the biggest change. And it's the stoicism stuff that we're looking at. So I'll read the Daily Stoic now. Just passed it to my son earlier on, and he's had the book as well. So it's just being able to deal with things better than I did before, and so it's maybe I think a lot calmer. And someone described it as Tom described it in a previous one about it being a shield. Yeah. It's not there. It's not a shield for me yet. It's more of an anchor. It's right. I'm feeling like something happened at work recently where I got really pissed off and I didn't deal with it particularly well. So it made me reflect, but I reflected it through what I'd learned. Okay, step back, and I'd have just been angry. And I might have even left the company. And it was my reaction was that it wasn't necessarily that bad. It was just me reacting like a child. And it was, but so it made me reflect on that. And through this, I've sort of gone, right, okay, the obstacle is the way. This is it. There's something that's going to happen, which is life throws crap at you. It's how you deal with it. That's your choice. And so that's the biggest thing I think is that now I can look at things, be a lot calmer about it, take it as it is, and try and turn it positive. And I've definitely the way I see things now. It's a bit more selfish, which sounds bad, but it's not. This is more about I'm more focused on that. This is what I want now. This is what I should be doing. I used to really care about what everyone thought about me, and that made me. I was doing things for everybody else and not myself, and now I'm doing it for myself. Which doesn't mean I'm shitting on people or anything. It just means I'm now more focused on that, and that's what I'm going to do. So that is the biggest change.
There's a couple of things to touch off on there. The thing that you just said last though about the kind of the people pleasing or being selfish or focusing on what you want. I think that again that's nuanced because I know you're not a selfish person. I know you massively care about lots of other people, but I think the situation you were in before was kind of saying yes and doing things you think other people want, but also compromising kind of what you want within that.
Yeah.
And that can create quite a difficult situation because the phrase I bang on about a lot, unspoken expectations, a premeditated resentment.
That is a really good one. That is a really good one. Yeah.
But that is what can happen there. So you commit to doing something with someone, a work thing or whatever else, you don't really want to, or you can't, or ultimately it's not what you actually want or it's potentially fair. You don't communicate that to the other people, so they've got no idea about any of this, but then you get pissed off and annoyed about them because of it, and so it creates this really sort of icky situation. So you sort of feel like you're being buffeted around, not got a lot of control, compromising yourself. Whereas actually if we're just honest and forthright and have an open conversation, most of the time no one's going to judge you or say anything. They go, okay, fair enough. Or even if they do, that conversation still needed to happen because that was bubbling around in the background and it needed addressing. And so I think being able to be more open, honest and transparent about what you want and need and across all levels, work, family, business, relationship, whatever it is, that isn't about kicking through a door and going, do what I say. It's totally not what we're talking about. It's just about being open and honest, and then you can have an open conversation. And most of the time, the odd time that some of those conversations might feel challenging, but actually afterwards you always feel miles better because you've got things out and you talk about it and it creates more clarity, right? Whatever it is we're talking about. And I feel like that's kind of what you're talking about there, James, in terms of the mindset and reflection and the stopping. It's just, I guess, being more intentional with how you show up in your life. And it requires you looking at yourself, so you could call that selfish, but ultimately I think everyone else gets a better version of you because of that, and you probably end up being more selfless because you're really actively thinking about, well, how do I want to show up and what I want in this situation. Well, then if that's true, then other people are going to get a better version of me because I'll meet them where they're at as well, right?
That's absolutely spot on, and I'm still not there yet with that at all. I'm still working through because I've come from a very long way away from that. But yeah, and it's quite hard to describe to people, and it's funny because I've used the phrase no, self-care isn't being selfish. And I've used that to so many people when I'm not in my mental health role, and I've used it into family. And they've really took it on, but I don't think I really understood it. And actually, to be honest, I've not even made the link between this selfishness and thinking of myself and this unspoken expectation point. But you're absolutely right. That's what it comes through. And the more honest I am with everybody about who I am and and don't try and compromise my views for it, actually, I do think it makes things into a better place. And so yeah.
Yeah, and that previous people pleasing doesn't come from it's not like a devious or a malintentioned place at all. It's quite the opposite, because you want to help people and you care about what they think. But in doing that too far, you compromise yourself. And then actually, if you're being really, really honest, like, you're not being fair on them, because they're not getting a real version of you
No,
either. And so then they can't give you what they need, because you're not being truly open. And so it's like you're making a judgment about what they can do, and that's not on you. You've got no idea what they're capable of or how they want to react. And so it's not. So again, it's that doubling down. And well, actually, no, if I'm just true to myself, really, and I'm feeling better, then I can do that. But then we talked about the holistic nature of how we want to work on ourselves. Doing what we just described there from a place of overweight, stressed, burnout, it's very, very difficult, right? Whereas actually we start to take care of ourselves more physically. We start to get more balance. We've got better habits and behaviors in place around how we take care of ourselves physically and mentally. Well, then you can start to look at situations like we're just describing more objectively and try and put some of that into practice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, definitely. It is funny, isn't it? The more I think about myself to some degree, the more I then more probably thinking about, I'm starting to realize the impacts it had on others, the way I was compromising. And a good example is we said that alcohol is a thing. For me, it wasn't really an issue. I don't really drink at home. So I know for some of the guys, it's a release.
Quite a big thing, yeah.
Alcohol's quite a bit of an issue. For me, it's not. It made me realize I've got a good balance to it. However, what I did realize, I was going out and drinking, and I would upset somebody if I didn't drink. Yeah, I ended up having beers when I didn't want them. I just didn't. I could have not had them because I didn't want to upset who I was with. And then I had a couple of conversations with people, and they're like, I don't give a shit if you have a drink or not. And you're like, oh, right, okay. And now, like I was at do on early in the week, just had non-alcoholic stuff, and I'm at a much more confident place, and no one judges you. And it's like I had this perception where I was just trying to make everybody else happy or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't know what would make them happy or not. And I was making myself less happy, but at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a perfect example of that, literally in the wild, right? So they're going to be annoyed if I don't drink because they're having a drink. I'm going to have a drink. Have we spoken to them about that? No. And then you do have to go, would you be bothered if I had a dog beer? Absolutely not. I couldn't care less. You're like, fair enough then. But that I can play out in an interaction with a work colleague, a boss, someone who's junior to you, your relationship, all of that. And I think to be able to be objective like that and have the confidence to do that, we need to be feeling better about ourselves in general, right? And that's the kind of the holistic, I guess, the holistic nature of, I believe, if you're going to help yourself, it's not just exercise or just mindset or just putting your phone down at night or just really, like, we need to look at things in a sort of global holistic fashion in order to do it. Now that might sound overwhelming because you think, oh, that's just so much stuff. It actually isn't. It's just doing it in a calm, steady way. But I think most of the guys I work with, and like we look back to where we were at the start, very successful, driven, do very well in your career, and so the modality is all in, let's fucking go. And probably that's what's caused why I have conversations with guys in the first place, because work's cannibalized all that other stuff. So they apply that same mentality to it. So, right, I need to get fit, so I'm going to train for a marathon, and at the detriment to everything else. Well, that might work for a bit and you might get fitter, but it's usually at the cost of all those other things that are really important. And so we need to have a more steady look. And for me, it's about kind of just trying to sort of, slow down, cowboy, hold on the rein, pull the reins back a bit, and showing you some very small things can have a big impact. Could you speak to that?
Exactly. It's the base, isn't it? It's the base of who you are and what you are, how you reflect. And like you say, the drinking thing is just one element. And I now that apply at home, and I apply that at work now. And I feel much more in control and much calmer about it and much more open. People should know where I am now than they didn't before. So.
Yeah. What would you say, having come through this process so far, James, if anyone was listening, like, what would you say would be the sort of the key learning or takeaway? So let's say someone's listening to this podcast, they're probably feeling like you were a few months back. They're like, right, I'm recognizing things aren't quite where I want to be. Yeah, I'm maybe a bit burnt out. This conversation's resonating. Whether it's to work with someone like me, park that bit. What would you say to someone in that kind of situation in order to start making some changes or do something about where they're at?
Well, it's funny because quite a few people have come up to me since I made the post on LinkedIn and asked me about it, about what it is, and because it's obviously resonated with a few people. And so, I mean, it's up to everyone to make their own decision. But if they are, even if it's something is triggering like this, it's just if they're having this internal dialogue, which sometimes you don't even know you're doing, where you're arguing with yourself, or you're putting yourself down, or you're beating yourself up about something, then you've got to go, right, okay, I've got to change that. I've got to address that and work out how to do that. And I think it's being really honest with yourself. If you've been thinking about this for a while, like I had been, wondering what to, but thinking I'll know what to do. I've just got to go do a bit more exercise. I've just got to lose a bit of weight. Know what's holding me back. But if you've been saying that for a long time, you do need something that just gives you that kick. So it's just, I think I would say, just be honest with yourself about where you are. Think about, if you think you know what you should be doing, think about, well, why aren't you doing it? That's the thing. It's because it's you that's stopping you doing it. So what is that?
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is and you can't work it out, then get help. Whether it be go to a gym and get some trainer, go to whatever things that they think they need in terms that will address that issue. But the first point is just be honest with yourself, and are you beating yourself up about some things, and are you happy with your situation, and address it.
I don't think I know what you just said there is the most important part. It's recognizing and being really honest and going, oh, I'm not where I want to be. And probably the most common thing I hear when I first speak to gents, whether we end up working together or not, is I know what I need to do, I just don't do it. Some variant of that statement, right? And technically it's true, but if you did, you'd be doing it. So clearly there is something where you don't, right? And what I loved is what you said there was the why. And often where we stop our conversations is like, oh, why don't you get up? Oh, all I need to do is get up and do a workout and get up a bit earlier, but I don't. Okay, why? Because I'm lazy. All right, great then. Let's just shut the conversation down. Or I'm not a morning person, which is what I hear a lot as well. Okay, and you ask why, and they go, oh, because I was tired. All right, why were you tired? I was up until midnight. Here we go. I was up until midnight. Oh, because I was sending emails till midnight and I was really stressed, and I had half a bottle of wine to take the edge off, and I didn't pay attention at bedtime with the kids, and so the missus was pissed off at me. Okay, maybe we look at some of that. Like, that doesn't strike me as necessarily someone's lazy, just that their evening's a shit show and it needs addressing. And I think that speaks to that holistic nature. Now, when I play out that example as to why someone might be tired and not do a workout, and I just say that it sounds completely obvious. In my experience, 99% of the time, you can't see it when you're in it. You're just a lazy piece of shit. That's like negative internal dialogue you talk about.
Yeah.
So it's just being honest and going, okay, something's not working. I probably can't see it. And then what I need to do is address that. Be that with a coach or not, it doesn't matter. But I think the first part is just putting your ego down and going, I don't know what I need to do really. Because if I did, I would be doing it. But what I need to do, this is the key point, I think, isn't some big scary thing like, something you said a lot, James, and the guys I work with, like, all the stuff you told us, I hear it loads, like, we've done it all before, and I hear that all the time. So I just smile, like, yeah, that's like I'm not asking you guys to do some rocket science stuff. I mean, maybe some of the more mindset pieces might be a bit different and challenging for some.
Yeah.
But like, a lot of it's pretty standard stuff, but it's having the grace to be able to apply it steadily, give yourself the time to embed it. And I think that's the bit where we fall over. And metaphorically, if we don't see the progress quickly, like you were saying, be that on the scales, be that on how you're feeling, be that on your stress management, whatever it is, like immediately we throw in the towel, or something goes wrong and we say, fuck it. The power of a coaching process, or if you're just being honest to challenge yourself, is just that why bit. That's basically what a coach's job is, really. It's why. Not do it better, dickhead, because that doesn't help anyone either. Because if we ask the whys for both ourselves, it helps,
Yeah, I can definitely see that, but I do think there's things that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So it's not just the why; it's the stoicism stuff, like the Marcus Aurelius stuff. So I've said if I ever get a tattoo, I'll get a tattoo at some point in my life, just to say I've got one. I'm not going to get into like
really good for your clients.
Yeah, I'm going to get on my forehead. The Marcus Aurelius will be in there somewhere now. Because the impact it's had in terms of changing my mindset that I've had for 56 years in terms of being able to approach stuff. I think that's really powerful, and I'm only just starting to get into that really. But I find that so, and the stuff like I didn't really exercise, I've not used weights. The stuff that we did, the DiMartini test to test, that made me realize why I was reacting like I was to the event that happened at work. It was like it's ticking all these boxes. These are my core values that this has just triggered. So it made me understand it, and then I could start to work on why it was that. So yeah,
and then you apply the Marcus Aurelius stoicism to that one bit there. So it's like, this has happened at work. You said I acted like a bit of a dickhead. You went proud, it wasn't perfect. But then we discussed it and we worked through it. And I won't talk about the specifics, but what we recognized was you were triggered in certain ways. You looked at your values. We did that. So now we've turned that event, which before it would have been, oh, that's happened, I'm annoyed, they're bastards, left it there, and it would have just festered. We took that, analysed it a little bit, looked into it, and actually, off the back of it, you learned loads about yourself. So actually, it's become a learning. Now, you probably wouldn't have chosen for that to happen, but actually, off the back of that happening, and because we didn't just let it sit and we looked at it, we analysed it, we applied some stoic thinking to it, we've actually got you to a better place. And so next time something like that's happened, you'll deal with it better, or you know how to cope with it. And that is what it's all about, because that's resilience, right?
Yeah, and it took a while. It took a long while to get through that. But like you say, you say when it next happens, it happens all the time. This is the point, isn't it? These little things happen all the time. There's something that's annoying or something. But now I can sort of rank things. It makes me really just clear out what's important. What is it why am I getting annoyed? But as soon as I start getting annoyed, it's almost like PTSD. It triggers that thought of starting getting annoyed by something. Right, should I be speaking to somebody? Or should I be, how do I make it into a positive? And should I actually get me annoyed in the first place? I'm making myself get annoyed. What's the point? So it does trigger that each time. And it's almost on a daily basis that comes through now, I think.
Yeah, well, because life tests you all the time. that's the point, right? But the more we can be resilient to that and roll with it and be objective and take a step back, the better it is. Well, look, James, I don't want to cannibalize any more of your time because I know you're a very, very busy man, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk like this. I've got a load out of it, and I know anyone watching or listening has. If anyone is watching and they're interested in what James has said, how I work, or you'd like to have a conversation, drop me a note, either on comment or DM, because I most definitely can help. James, it's been a pleasure working with you so far and continuing to work with you. And like I said to you before, in the really positive way, the James I first spoke to a few months back, both physically and mentally, you're in a very different place now, and it's really, really great to see. And yeah, we've done some work in the coaching process, but equally, you're the one who's done the work, and you're the one who's had the difficult conversations, and you're the one who's challenged yourself to want to change. And that's what it's all about. I think ultimately, any kind of process like this, you've got to want to make a difference and make a change. Exactly. And also, you've just got to be honest. And if you can do those two bits, of course, there's a process and there's habits and there's behaviors and we learn cool stuff and all the rest of it. But that's the core bit. If you're able to do that, the world's your, what is it Del Boy says, the world's your lobster. Any parting comments or thoughts before we get off, James?
One assumes that because I was the mental health guy and I had everything sorted. And then so many people have said, why do you need that? You're the last person I'd have thought would need something like that. You go on the bike all the time. You know about mental health. You're always happy in the office. Take a step back. One, don't judge anybody else. I think they've got their life sorted because no one has. We see the people on this. No one has got life sorted. Take that as a lot of comfort. Actually, so don't beat yourself up too much if you think you're not, because no one really is. And all those people that you think are struggling in some sort of way, that's just the way the world is. And be honest with yourself. And if you think you need to change something, do something about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, on that note, James, thank you so much. Right. It's been a pleasure. Yeah. Anyone watching or listening, like I say, if you're interested in having a chat, drop me a note. Otherwise, have a fantastic week and see you next week. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.